Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning to all my people, man. We're getting after it today. Got Deebo Samuel. We're going to talk all things Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, the projection of both of these guys' careers, and what's going to happen money-wise, all that good stuff. Jalen Ramsey's comments. We're going to get into all that and more right here. It's the San Francisco 49ers Morning Show. Let's go.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Eric Crocker. Over midfield, he'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Crop Talk TV podcast. Peace.
Welcome to another episode of the San Francisco 49ers Morning Show. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, always start with letting y'all know where y'all can find me. And of course, that is Locked On 49ers with myself and my co-host, Brian Peacock. We come at y'all 5 days a week. Make sure y'all tune into that. Check the description below, and you'll see a link where you can find us on YouTube and on any platform you listen to your podcast. Also, Locked On the NFL Draft with myself and Ryan Tracy. Come at you 5 days a week on there as well. So make sure y'all tune in to both of those, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is that you listen to. Do that right now. I don't know why I said Spotify first, because clearly everyone leans more towards Apple. You can see where people kind of tune in. Spotify, is it Apple? Is it whatever streaming platform they use? I'd say most of y'all have iPhones. A few of y'all got the little Androids or whatever, but yeah, we see the numbers. Apple kind of runs the world right now. Someone says, throw on that Stockton Ports hat for me one time. Maybe another day. You see it? It's behind me. Stockton Ports hat. It's at the end down there. Shout out to all my 209ers in the house. Let's go. Hope everybody's feeling good. I see the flames coming in. 5 flames. If you're feeling great, anything less than that, we need to talk about it. I see the chat going up already. And that's what's up. Everybody feeling good this morning, it looks like. I woke up this morning, got a workout in with my wife and my mother-in-law. Woke up, about 5:30 a.m. Got in there, got after it. Part of it is a little annoying working out with women, because it's like, are y'all gonna complain the whole time? And their first thing to do is kind of find an excuse as to why they can't do something. It's like, man, come on, man, y'all got this. But anyways, let's get into it, man. Deebo Samuel, and maybe some of y'all listen to the I Am Athlete podcast. I definitely have been a big listener of it. But they lost a few guys, man. I feel like they lost a few guys that are very important to the show. Fred Taylor, Jameson Crowder? No. Channing Crowder. Excuse me. Channing Crowder. All right. But Fred Taylor, Channing Crowder, and it kind of changed the show just a little bit. And I still mess with Brandon Marshall, still mess with Ocho Cinco, of course. But Crowder and Fred Taylor started their own show with our guy, Ryan Clark, former Pittsburgh Steeler. And it's called The Pivot. And they've been having some awesome guests on The Pivot. And recently, on one of the latest episodes, they had Jalen Ramsey. And Jalen Ramsey listed his top 5 receivers in the league. And obviously, for most guys, it's probably going to be some of the guys that they've seen the most. Or played against the most, right? Because those are the biggest battles. Those are the guys that you have the most respect for. And, Jalen Ramsey's been in the NFC West now for a couple years. And he's had to go up against Deebo Samuel 4 times. Shoot, I feel like, has Ramsey been with the Rams for 3 years now? How long has Ramsey been with the Rams? 2019? 2019, he was with them. So 3 years now. So he's had to go up against Deebo Samuel a good amount of times. And more times than not, when Deebo's going up against the Rams, he has had really good games. I know a lot of people kind of go back to when our guy, 99, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now, Aaron Donald, was like, who? A lot of people have made a lot of fun of that. But Deebo, he's had his way with the Rams. Regular season, postseason, hasn't mattered. So obviously Jalen Ramsey being on the same field, like you see it. Like you just see the impact that this guy has. And I think right now, and it depends on who you are. Like how much of something do you have to see to call someone elite? Or at the very least, they're entering that kind of realm, right? That title. And I would say right now, like Debo, he's been good. You look at his rookie year in the NFL, didn't have a ton of targets. Matter of fact, he had what 40 more targets last season than he did as a rookie. 40 more targets. He caught 20 less passes exactly and had 600 less yards. But 57 receptions on 81 targets, 800 receiving yards. He only had 3 receiving touchdowns as a rookie, that's pretty interesting, right? But also, he has a lot of production as a rusher as well. So his rookie season, 159 rushing yards, another 3 touchdowns. So 6 total touchdowns, almost 1,000 yards total. Now, second year, we know what happened. He only played in 6 games? I say 6. It says 7, but he played in 6 games because one of those games he was like hurt on like the very first play. So 1 touchdown that year. That's interesting. 1 receiving touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. So only 2 touchdowns his sophomore year. And then obviously last year, he exploded onto the scene. 77 receptions, over 1,400 receiving yards, averaged a league best 18.2 yards per reception, which is amazing. 6 receiving touchdowns, obviously the highest of his career. To go with 365 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. So 14 total touchdowns last year resulted in a Pro Bowl appearance and first team All Pro. So I have a question. Is one great year enough to call a receiver elite? I think he's entering more of the elite realm. I think he's entering that category. Is he a top 5 receiver in the NFL? And I think this is where he's kind of changing the game, because Deebo Samuel doesn't, I mean, it's hard. I want to say it doesn't affect the game in your traditional sense, but I mean, dude had 1,400 receiving yards, right? But the way that he plays, it doesn't look like other guys. So I think if you just ask someone straight up, hey, top 5 receivers in the NFL, they'll probably tell you, like, oh man, a lot of times it's been like Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. There's gonna be all kind of guys that look like that. They run routes a certain way, they get separation a certain way, they get their production a certain way. And Debo just doesn't look like that. Like he just on the field. I mean, first his physique, 5'11". I'm pretty sure he plays at probably around 220 pounds. Sort of this kind of squattier, wider receiver. And the way he wins is just different. It's not really predicated on being able to consistently get separation with route running, but he just wins, right? And I think for him, it's like, man, I don't got to create a ton of separation. I just need to get this defensive back on my back and catch the ball, and then I'm going to win with a ton of yards after catch. And if you see a guy who probably out of I'd say the top 10 receivers in the NFL, out of the top 10 receivers, I'm almost positive he has the least amount of deep balls. Like I'd say the ball travels the least amount of yards. So for him to still get 18.2 yards per reception, dude, that's tremendous. That's tremendous. And I think it just shows how special of a player he is. Now, it was cool to hear Jalen Ramsey talk about him as a top 5 receiver. But I think obviously, again, like, dude, he's had to play against him several times, and he sees how he impacts the game. The 49ers game plan, everything about it is schemed around the ability of Deebo Samuel and not as your traditional, quote unquote, receiver. It's a guy that wins at the line of scrimmage, screen passes, end arounds, shovel passes, deep crossers, digs. Hasn't been that deep threat yet, but maybe we'll see as Trey Lance kind of takes over at the quarterback position. But Very, very, very special player. And he's kind of changed the game. Again, talked about what people think that your traditional receiver is supposed to look like. Keenan Allen. I didn't mention him. Mike Evans. But I think people are going to start to look at the receiver as more of a positionless type position where you don't have to look like these other guys. You can look like Debo Samuel. You can win like Debo Samuel. And I think obviously last year, and again, a lot of teams, they're going to start to try to find their Debo Samuel where they can just legitimately create an entire game plan around this one receiver that affects the game in multiple ways, whether it's through the air, whether it's on the ground. Now, again, there's always going to be that traditional receiver that impacts game in that way, but you're going to start to see teams, and we've already seen it, where they're like, can we get the next Debo Samuel? Who is the next Debo Samuel? How do you get the next Debo Samuel? I think it's extremely difficult to try to find that guy because he's so unique. I remember a couple years ago, Laviska Shenault, like that was the guy, right? Laviska Shenault, that's the next Debo Samuel. Like, oh, he's like Debo Samuel. You play him like Debo Samuel. And I remember watching Laviska Shenault's film, and Debo Samuel, I had Debo Samuel as my wide receiver 2A, 2B to AJ Brown coming out. It was DK, AJ, and Debo. I had them pretty much like the same. So I viewed him as a pure receiver, like someone that had that type of ability to consistently win that way, like however you need him to do. And you look at Laviska Shenault, who when he was coming out, and that was the guy, like that was the okay, he can be Debo Samuel. And I was like, no, the hell, like he's not Debo Samuel. Because when you watch, if anybody you watch Debo Samuel at South Carolina, he was a very pure and explosive receiver. And I think they did a lot more to unlock his ability to win down the field. It's a guy who won multiple ways. He wasn't this gadget receiver, but had the ability to be a quote unquote gadget guy. And he got tagged with that. And I thought people were wrong. I thought people were wrong for that. Definitely not, in my opinion, some type of gadget guy. But obviously, again, he's approaching that elite status. I think you have to have this type of production, 77 receptions, 1,400 yards, 18 yards a catch, 365 rushing yards. Not saying that it has to be to that extent, but I think to be an elite receiver, and I think he's right there. You got to do it more than 1 year. You got to do it more than 1 year. So I think he's close. Now, to do it more than 1 year, there's going to be a lot on Trey Lance and his development as a passer, the consistency of it, and how he can really continue to help Debo Samuel improve on his numbers. And how can he do it? 1 second, y'all. Let me send it. How can he do it? So I pulled up some numbers to try to see, how was Debo Samuel's usage with Trey Lance. All right, so look at Deebo Samuel, because there's a lot of people that it's kind of like Deebo is kind of an afterthought, and it's like, Brandon Aiyuk, that's the guy that's going to take off now with Trey Lance. They work out together, they train together, they do their speed work together, they do the pass catching together, they do all these things together, and they're building that rapport. And is Deebo going to kind of take a back seat to that? Why did Deebo Samuel, like, he really pushes, like, Jimmy Garoppolo, and I get it. When you put up these type of numbers with Jimmy Garoppolo, it's like, why would I want anyone else? Why would I want Trey Lance? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would I want anyone else? Because I was so productive with Jimmy Garoppolo. But again, looking at Deebo Samuel's numbers with Trey Lance, the first game against the Seahawks. Now, I didn't break this up in between first half, second half. Obviously, we know that Trey Lance played the second half. Jimmy Garoppolo played the first half. But in that game, and a chunk of this came in the second half for Deebo Samuel. Obviously, had a busted coverage on one. But Deebo Samuel against the Seahawks in Trey Lance's first appearance. 8 receptions on 13 targets, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. So production was there. Now, in Jimmy Garoppolo's next 2 games, or Trey Lance's next 2 games, I think there was a bit of a hit in the sense of targets, but against the Cardinals. So this at the very least shows me either Kyle Shanahan's making it a priority to draw up things for Deebo Samuel, or Trey Lance is making it a priority to look for Deebo Samuel. But against the Cardinals, and they're still kind of working on that rapport. That's why it's like, gosh, Deebo, why aren't you in LA or wherever Trey Lance is performing? I get it. It's like, man, fuck that, dude. I train, I work out in Miami. That's where I'm doing my offseason training. Hopefully, Trey Lance can hold some kind of camp to get these guys together, just so that they continue to kind of get on the same page. But against the Cardinals, he had 3 receptions, Deebo Samuel. Now, 3 receptions for 58 yards. He also had a rushing touchdown, so he had that production there. Still had over 70 yards of offense, but 3 receptions on 9 targets. So that's not ideal, right? You want to continue to kind of work on that connection there to improve that. Remember, Deebo had a couple of drops in that game. He did drop a screen where it was like kind of on his back hip. He dropped the screen, probably would have scored on that. So that's one of the targets. And then he dropped the slant. And I thought the slant hit him right in the chest. Like he hit him in stride. He just flat out dropped it. So, I mean, it very easily could have been 5 receptions for 9 yards, a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and about 75 receiving yards to add on to whatever he did in the rushing game. So I still think that the production is going to continue to be there. Now, in that Texans game, another game, 3 receptions on 6 targets. So the targets went down. Again, Seahawks game, 13 targets. Cardinals game, 9 targets. Texans game, 6 targets. All right, 63 receptions. So, and a receiving touchdown. Still had a receiving touchdown. So how are they going to work to kind of continue to keep his numbers up? Now, with these numbers, you're still a 1,000-yard receiver, 100%. Let's see if I could do some simple math here and kind of add up what are his averages over that time span with Trey Lance. All right, so we got plus 8, 3. What about 3 times 17? What? I did my math wrong. 1 second, Joe. 56 plus 58 divided by 2.5 equals times. I'm messing up. I'm for sure messing up on this because it can't be right. Anyways, it's a lot of yards. My math is off right now. I don't know why. But it looks like the production is still going to be there. And for Deebo Samuel to be mentioned in the same conversation as some of the other guys, and again, he's probably going to get paid a ton. He's going to have that big time. He's going to have that big time performance. Big time. All right. Throughout the season, another, and again, it might not be 1,400 yards, but maybe 1,200 yards and another 200 rushing yards. And I think people would still consider like the impact that he has to be an elite receiver. Justin Jefferson, he's a guy. What do you have? Back-to-back. I think Justin Jefferson has over 3,000 yards over his first 2 years. So it's interesting that, like, is he elite? Is Justin Jefferson more elite than Deebo Samuel? Or is he not impacting the game the same way? Is it just stats that makes you? Is it just stats that makes you, elite? Or is it just like you can see it, right? It's just that impact. What am I? Hold on. I'm not even reading the chat. So, because I'll start losing train of thought. But most receiving yards ever in the first 2 years. That's Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is elite. Now, the other aspect of this, and there's going to be a big conversation about Deebo Samuel, how much he should get paid. So right now, again, off of doing it for 1 year, trying to see if he can sustain it, if he can continue to stay healthy, and maybe some of it you have to project. Do you pay him top tier money? Do you pay him what the Tyreek Hill is getting? Do you pay him what the Devontae Adams is getting? Is it kind of like the market for a quarterback where it's predicated on whatever it is at the time you can become the highest paid guy? So is that how Deebo gets paid? I think I've seen a lot of people, especially when the trade starts kind of sparking up, and a lot of people have talked about trading Deebo Samuel. Now again, I don't think 49er fans want to trade Deebo Samuel. I think it was, the Jets were just kind of poking around and just kind of keeping an eye on certain situations. Are the 49ers going to pay Deebo Samuel? Is Deebo Samuel going to end up being kind of disgruntled or whatever in this situation? Because that stuff happens, right? The negotiations are tough when it comes to the NFL. They're going to try to point out all these different reasons as to why you shouldn't make as much. And guys can kind of get, I don't want to say butt hurt by that, but you can feel a certain way when they're trying to, it's like, dude, y'all can't do this without me. Like, look at how impactful I was, not just in the regular season, because it's one thing to get a ton of stats in the regular season, but in the playoffs as well. Deebo Samuel was everything. Listen, y'all asking questions in the chat. I can't see y'all gonna throw me off my. But anyways, Deebo Samuel is everything. I think you gotta pay him. But do you make him wait one more year to where you see maybe that production again and you see the consistency there? And then you're like, all right, do you plan on potentially franchise tagging him? Do you have him play on his rookie contract with plans to potentially franchise tag him if you can't get something done? Does he play this last year on that, still on the rookie contract with no guarantees moving forward? Those are things that will be interesting. Now, again, but there's another element to this. Brandon Aiyuk and, his development and him continue to kind of move forward in this process. And, you look at his numbers with Trey Lance, and he's not getting targeted nearly as much. 3 targets against the Seahawks. 1 was on the go route. He only had 1 reception that game, 15 yards. Cardinals game, when Trey Lance started the entire game, 2 catches, 4 targets, 32 yards. Texans game, 4 targets, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 94 yards. So he had the yardage that game. Obviously, he had some nice run after catch opportunities. One of the targets that's not mentioned here is the deep route that they call pass interference on. Definitely, you see the dynamic of our guy Trey Lance trying to push the ball down the field to Brandon Aiyuk. How consistent will that be? Will they continue to kind of get on the same page there? And it seems like they're putting in the work to do that. But right now, it continues to look like Deebo's the guy, and is going to get his money. What is he worth? I think he's worth whatever they're willing to pay him. We'd love to get y'all opinions on this as well. So y'all know what to do, man. Come on live. Hit the link for the chat right now. Let's go. Now I can kind of get to some of these questions, man. Y'all's trying to get me off my train of thought. I'm not even going to go back and look through any of those. Shout out to everybody in the chat right now. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Y'all think Deebo Samuel is a top 5 receiver? I do. There's been more of a narrative being pushed of him being not just more of an elite football player than an elite receiver. And I think you're going to have to start looking at guys like him as just both. Like him being an elite football player is him being an elite receiver, just because I think he's changing the game. Well, let's see for one more year. But he's right there. Clearly, he's my favorite. Between him and Devontae Adams, those are my favorite guys to watch. Here we go. Coming on now. I got my guy Gammon, man. Good morning. Good morning, Gammon. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing all right, brother. How about yourself?
I'm blessed. Can't complain. Deebo Samuel. He's done it for 1 year. Elite production for 1 year. Do you still believe he's elite?
Yes. And I think it kind of goes back to kind of what you said. Is it palpable? Is it something that you can see? And he's been the thing with Debo is he's elite when he's on the field, when he's playing, kind of like Kevin Durant or Steph Curry when they're not injured, when they're actually playing. They're elite. I nicknamed Debo, Slant God. I think a lot of people do too.
Yeah.
But it's also too everything that he kind of brings to the table. He's definitely, I would say, one of, if not the best run blocking wide receivers in the league. And that's something that really kind of gets lost on, I think, like a lot of fans. One of my favorite wide receivers, other than Jerry Rice growing up, was a guy named Hines Ward. Hines Ward was just so versatile in everything that he could do. He wasn't the best deep threat in the league, but he was one of the best. He could do that. He wasn't a deep threat player, but he had deep threat ability, and that's the same thing I would say with Deebo Samuel. Also, too, the yards after the catch. I mean, we keep talking about Deebo Samuel with his receiving yards last year, like he had 900 or just barely eclipsed like 1,000. But when was the last time that the 49ers had a wide receiver eclipse 1,000 yards receiving? I think that was Anquan Bolden. I think.
Yeah. I think he did it back-to-back years. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And I think the big thing with Debo that I was kind of waiting for was, one, for him to take care of himself a little bit better. He had some issues, and that was a big thing that Wes Welker worked with him on, was keeping his weight down. And I just remember, a season or two ago when the 49ers were going through all those injuries, you could see him trying to come back from injury, and just in the middle of the season, it looked like he kind of put back on a lot of kind of off-season weight during the middle of the season. But it looks like he's won that battle. And then also too, he's a red zone threat, but not your standard kind of red zone threat, right? Not like an AJ Brown or Devontae Adams red zone threat, catch it over somebody or high post at the end of the near one of the corners of the end zone, but just more so of like, you don't know if he's going to run it in. You have now with the, Trey Lance kind of a triple option there in the backfield, 5 yards out. I mean, how many eyes do you have in the backfield to kind of scout and watch him? And then the other thing too that I really like about him is that in a pinch, he can give you some special teams play as well. So I just really think that, I think that he is elite. And most times I'd say, hey, with a lot of players, especially at a wide receiver position, I would say, they need like 2 years to show that they're elite. But honestly, he has an elite mentality, and you can see that in his play every single time when he takes the field. I'm not surprised that he put up the numbers that he put, but it was just, does he have the skills, or will he learn the skills on how to keep himself from not getting injured and still playing physical? And he did that. I really appreciate your time, Croc, and I'm going to leave with that.
All right, appreciate you coming on. I like it. Shout out to my guy Gavin coming on. I see my guy Jesse. He says, "Yo, Croc, can we get some of that?" Listen, dude. So this is what happened with the math. It looked crazy, so I thought I was wrong, but I just did the math again. I'm like, oh wait, no, I was right. So if you add up, and I did it by 2.5 games, so I think that's what kind of threw me off as well. If you add up 2.5 games worth of production for Deebo Samuel with Trey Lance, and that's 156 yards, 58 yards, 63 yards. You add that up, and then you divide that by 2.5 games, and then multiply that by 17. You get 1,883 yards. But when I did it the first time, I'm like, bro, there's no way that ends up being over 1,800 yards over a full season. But then I double checked just now, and it was right. So I know how to do math, but it just looks so crazy, like almost 1,900 yards. I'm doing something wrong. I wasn't doing something wrong. I was right. So, F you. Here we go. Y'all know what to do, man. Come in to the chat. We live. We direct. All 200 of you. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. We're almost at 10,000 10,000 subscribers. What are we, probably 75 subscribers shy of 10,000. So if you are new to the show and you like it, man, hit that subscribe button right now. How do y'all think that this is going to affect Brandon Aiyuk? Really, just with the change at the quarterback position. And I'm talking like that, and we're not going to talk too much about the quarterbacks, but everything that they said, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, to me, it sounds like, yeah, Trey Lance is the guy. That's everything that I got from that. So that's how I'm going to speak from now on. That is Trey Lance. He's the 49ers quarterback heading into the season. Here we go. Looking at some of the comments. All right. But anyways, man, everybody's got quiet today, man. Not much people clicked in to the live chat, the live video. So are we going to cut things off? I really only came in here to talk about Deebo Samuel today. Here we go. Got a contribution here. Breakout year for him. And he's talking about Brandon Aiyuk. What does a breakout season for Brandon Aiyuk look like? He probably would have been a 1,000-yard receiver last year if not for that really weird start to the season. I mean, let me look at some of his game logs here real quick. The targets, everything was like, it was really weird to start the year. Yeah. He turned up, I'd say, from that second Arizona Cardinals game. From there on, you start to see his numbers kind of trending more upward. But in the first 5 games, 6 yards, 37 yards, 15 yards, 32 yards, 6 yards. Like, how does Brandon Aiyuk ever go a game where he has 6 yards? How's that even possible? He didn't play the whole season. He didn't play against the Lions. Against Philly, he had 2 targets, 6 yards. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. Against Seattle, one catch, 3 yards. One catch on 3 targets, 15 yards. Like, against Indianapolis, 1 catch on 1 target, 6 yards. I know it was raining, but I think that's kind of ridiculous. Against Atlanta, 2 targets, 1 catch, 36 yards against Atlanta. His usage is kind of stupid. I'm not going to lie. Against Cincinnati, 10 targets. There you go. I think, and I said this last year and I know, I hear the doghouse thing, but the crazy part about that, even being in the doghouse, Brandon Aiyuk was on the field. Like, he legitimately was on the field. That's why it was kind of weird. Now, maybe some of the play designs didn't. I think if you listen to Kyle Shanahan, he'll tell you that the play designs dictate the coverage dictates where the ball goes. So it's not even so much in the sense of just, all right, I'm not trying to throw to him. Like, he's on the field, but maybe the looks made it to where he wasn't getting the targets. But I think some of that's BS because, like, you can look for different ways to get the ball in Aiyuk's hands. But even when he was in the doghouse, he was on the field. I think the first game, he did play. You know what? I think he did play against Detroit, but he just didn't get any targets. I think that was the issue there. He got 0 targets, I think. So he's not even on the stat sheet for the Lions game. But outside of that, and I think in that game too, it was with Trent Sherfield. Trent Sherfield took half of his snaps. But as the season went on, even after that, like, even the order for, like, he was on the field. He just wasn't getting no damn targets. He wasn't getting no targets. Here we go. Got my guy Javon on. What's good, Javon, man? How you doing? Good morning.
What's going on, man? Can you hear me all right?
I got you.
Just checking in with you, man. Always appreciate being on the show. Content's amazing. I'm always hitting the like and we subscribing over here. So
I
appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah. So what do you think? You thinking the breakout year is coming for Brandon Aiyuk? And if so, what does a breakout year for Aiyuk look like?
I gotta say, a breakout year got to be somewhere around 1,000 yards. Let's see, maybe at least 10 touchdowns, something around that measure. Yeah, just something people have been waiting to see for us because aside from us 49er fans, people really been sleeping on Aiyuk, man. So I think that it'll just be something that they can really wake up to. I'm expecting a whole lot more yak from him. That the chemistry is already there with Lance and Aiyuk is what it seems like. So we've already seen them do some amazing plays, and you also see with versus the Dallas game, Trevon Diggs, he was one of the most efficient cornerbacks last season, and Aiyuk was making him look like a late round rookie. He couldn't really hold on to Aiyuk, so he's always real shifty with his routes. He's always making some crazy moves that can get him open, and his catch radius is just crazy. He can jump up, he can get the ball, and so I expect some great connection with Lance and Aiyuk next season. They'll definitely bring it together, and it's going to be a surprise for everybody to see.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about kind of missing them in the playoffs. I saw someone else talk about how just maybe Garoppolo and Aiyuk sometimes maybe not on the same page. Against Dallas in the playoffs, he had 6 targets, 5 catches. The only miss was that kind of overthrow. But aside from that, 5 catches, 6 yards, kind of picked up against the LA Rams as well. 4 receptions on 8 targets, 69 yards. So it looks like they definitely made it more of a focal point to get the ball into his hands. But yeah, he could do a little bit more. I would like to see him just be more consistent, and maybe it just depends on the quarterback position. Right now, I have his stats pulled up, and next to it, they're showing like some of his college highlights. Okay. And what it looks like to me, looking at some of these highlights, he just looked a little more dynamic to me. Like just the way that he was moving, I don't know if he was just more confident. I don't know what it is, but looking at those just now, and I don't watch highlights, so it's interesting to see it in that way. But it just looks, I just see him look a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah, and you can kind of argue and say like, hey, Aiyuk really wasn't. Not only was Aiyuk not having the chemistry that he does have, that he may have with Lance, I don't think he had chemistry with Jimmy at all. To be honest, it's like when you seen even with when Nick Mullins was playing with us, it seemed like Nick Mullins was taking more shots with Aiyuk than what Jimmy was doing. You also see Lance and Aiyuk, they're working out together, they're doing their thing. Meanwhile, you got these other players saying Jimmy don't even text people back. Jimmy don't even, sometimes he don't even return calls. We never seen him really one-on-one time with Aiyuk. So is Aiyuk actually, that could be frustrating with him, on a professional level, you got to be better than that. You got to work on that. But if you don't have any type of chemistry at all with the quarterback, that could be an issue. So definitely see some big upgrades with him messing with Trey Lance.
Yeah, no, definitely. They're gonna have to really work to improve on that throughout this offseason. And we've seen other guys. Hell, even when I remember being with the New York Jets, and Mark Sanchez used to put on something called Jets West, and he would put everybody up in like this hotel and everything out in LA, and for like a week, they would just work out together, train, work to get on the same page. He would pay for food and all that type of stuff. So, it has been interesting. We've seen a little bit of that from Jimmy Garoppolo throwing at, was he throwing at? San Jose State, I think a couple of times. But hopefully, they continue to kind of get on that page, because I think there's a lot more that goes into kind of the rapport of a quarterback and a receiver, truly understanding exactly what the other player is going to do. And sometimes it has to be on the fly, and you have to know how a guy is going to break off his route. Yeah. And at the very least, Nashville. There we go. Nashville. We got somebody here. You're like, yeah, Nashville. Yeah, Nashville, Jimmy did the thing. And then I think it was Richie James got hurt there. And then Deebo shortly after that. So I don't know if that put up. There was a COVID thing as well. One of the guys got COVID. But,
it was Richie.
Man, it's just we'll see, man. We'll see how that whole thing works out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I expect big things. I mean, they supposedly it was like, you putting Aiyuk in the doghouse. He's not getting he's supposedly competing with Trent Sherfield, things like that. But I think he just had a problem with Trey Lance not starting to begin with. He felt like he should have started week 1 because he sees that Jimmy's not the quarterback that he really wanted to play with. So, like I said, it's something he may have to work on a professional level. He may have said something that shouldn't have been said in the locker room, things like that. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I expect big things. He's still here on the team. He's still happy to be with us. He's still working hard, and this chemistry is only going to get better and develop. So, but we've seen how their connection has been so far. They've made some crazy plays. So,
right. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, Javon.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Here we go. Here's a good one. Croc, what does the film say about Brandon Aiyuk's blocking? So the way I watch film, like if you ask me a question that's specific, like I don't want to give you a take that's false. Like I never watched him to see like how good is his blocking, but I can recall instances in my head just from watching the games, the TV copies, where I thought the effort was there. And that's the big part about it. Like guys are going to miss a block here and there. I thought the effort for Brandon Aiyuk to, be on blocks, things like that, that was terrific. So I don't know if that was an issue. A play that stands out in my head right away was against the Bears. And he did multiple times where he was, blocking guys downfield and things like that. So the 49ers receivers definitely take pride in blocking, all of them. Even guys like Richie James, I thought Richie James was like terrific blocking. Trent Sherfield, the effort was there, but he missed some blocks. And because he's not on the field all the time, I think that's going to stick out in a lot of people's minds. But at the end of the day, I think all the receivers, 49ers coaches put an emphasis on blocking with the receivers. So I think they did a really good job of really showing that effort all the way downfield. I mean, even going back to Kendrick Bourne, you see all those guys putting in high effort with blocking. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But anyways, man, I appreciate everybody coming on with me today. Hey, today at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, which is my time, I will be on with Grant Cohn for Cohn and Crocker. All right, so make sure y'all tune over to Grant Cohn. We're going to have a bunch of different topics, not just Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk. But I appreciate everybody that came into the chat today. Everybody hit the like button, and everyone that subscribed. Also, make sure y'all listen to Locked On 49ers with myself and Brian Peacock. Underdog Fantasy, make sure you download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code Crocky. They're going to match whatever you put in there. If you like to do over-unders on basketball, football, they got baseball stuff. They got all kind of props. Underdog Fantasy, that's the place for you. Just look for that little dog right there. Where is he? There he goes, right there. All right, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky. Do that right now. But I appreciate all y'all today tuning in for this show. We're out, man. Peace.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Eric Crocker. Over midfield, he'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Croc Talk TV podcast. Peace.